Mic check. Hello, everyone. Welcome to
Proper.
Mind
Love
Control. What? I have to be myself.
I love it.
You're always trying to be the cool cat. Mic check, mic check. Like, that's just not me.
Yeah.
I'm just not me. I'm sorry. I grew up in Fontana.
I'm dead.
Anyways, so tonight our subject is called can I get a drum roll, please? Character is currency. What does that make you guys think and feel when you hear that expression, character is currency? What does that bring up for you guys?
It kind of reminds me of the other phrase, quality over quantity.
Okay.
I like that.
I like that.
Yeah.
What about you, Coach?
I would say the first thing that's popping into my head is integrity.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Integrity. That's the only thing I can think of. Integrity.
So I think the subject was born from a clip that we saw of Monica, the singer Monica. She was speaking about how you don't want to fumble the bag. And she said when she is referring to fumbling the bag, she's not necessarily referring to money, but, you know, people around you, fumbling people of value. And I think she's speaking to, you know, people of good character or just people that are loyal, trustworthy, people who are focusing their energy when it comes to, you know, character building. They're focusing their energy on the things that can't be taken away from you, such as your integrity, to Coach's point, your morals, your ethics. You know what I mean? There's just a lot. There's a lot of negative things going on in the world right now. Our feeds are just 2024 has been something else.
And it's only May.
we're not even
May.
halfway through the year yet, and I feel like you know, a lot of reasons why these bad things are allowed to happen, unpermitted to go on, is because there aren't really people of great character around when these things are happening, and it just continues, and, you know, it's allowed to go on for however long.
Everybody's just enabling everyone.
And you can tell. We talk about it all the time. We, Caleb and I, we love to listen to like new music artists that are like on the rise. You know, just starting out. He's always he's always playing me. You know, the up and comers, so to speak. And I'm always speaking to, you know, when I hear something I like, I'm like, you know, I wish the best for them, and I just hope that they have a great team around them, because you can just tell. In the industry in particular, you can tell when someone is blessed to have, you know, good people around them versus someone who maybe isn't as fortunate, and then they just go down a different path, a darker path, you know, so on and so forth.
I remember once a pastor of mine that I had when I was a youngster. This one's deep. He said, let your integrity take you. Let your faith take you where your integrity can keep you. Let your faith take you where your integrity can keep you. And of course, I'm like 19, 20 at the time. But at this stage in my life, I'm like, that was meant for like right now. I also think too, as we were talking about like up and coming new artists, we're thinking about, you could post a video today and go viral.
Yeah.
What does it take to go viral? Oftentimes when you became famous, you went to like acting school or music school. Basically, you earned the right to be in the room. But with today's...
Or artist development. They don't have that nowadays.
That's
they
what
don't
I
have
was getting to.
anymore.
Yeah, a lot of times you could just make a video on your phone and then just...
And boom, you're famous.
And boom, you're famous. Just like these athletes. You can go from being a collegiate athlete or a community athlete and then an overnight millionaire, and don't have the financial backing or education or integrity of how to maintain those millions. So we see so many athletes go broke over a certain amount of years, right? I also think, too, it's the people that you have connected to you should make sure that there's a strong foundation.
Yes.
And I think the people connected to you are also what's considered your currency. Because if I'm out of pocket, I pray for God that y'all would pull me back into line, and then vice versa.
Yeah.
But
it's
if go ahead.
I was going to say it's like how we have spoken in the past about manifesting. I feel like sometimes we can manifest things for ourselves prematurely, where we're just not in the place to be able able to receive it. Sometimes we do receive it and it produces more negative outcomes because we weren't in a place to receive it. I think a lot of young people are experiencing that with just being overnight successes. And then I feel like their development kind of just remained stagnant because the ego wasn't checked at a time when it should have been checked. It was allowed to run rampant and then exacerbated by overnight success.
I also think too, there's so much character. It could be negative. It could be negative characteristics. It could be positive. I think there has to be a grace about oneself to have character, you know, and I think character is similar, like I said, to integrity. It's who you are when no one else is looking.
Right.
And I think character also too has a lot to do with child rearing, how you were raised, what household you came from, how you're connected to people in the community. I feel like if you're a snob and a jerk to people in your community or people out in the world, all it takes a little bit of eyes on you, and that internal person is going to maximize itself. We've seen that in a lot of our media and our news and everything that's happening right now. There's a lot of narcissistic type of behaviors that are happening. And I think so many people think, well, I'm rich or I'm well off or I got the bag so I could be a jerk. I could be snobby. But I think
that's a very common
thought
process.
It really is, though, Nisha. And I also think, too, that sometimes the more that we talk about their negativities, the more that we boost them.
Yeah. I mean, us shining such a light on it is part of the issue. Because it's like it's rewarding that. That's why I think a lot of people, especially like young people trying to have that overnight success or become influencers or gain millions of followers, I think a lot of times shock factor is relied on. I was just watching this guy on TikTok this morning. I was telling Caleb, I was just like, I'm just going on a reporting spree because I'm like, my new thing is to get him taken off the internet because he just says, just the most shocking thing. Like he'll refer to black people as like the blacks of the internet are like really mad right now.
He won't be
like,
getting any promotion.
Or he'll he basically tried on this foundation and basically like did blackface for on the internet and it's very obvious like what his tactic is, and it's successful. It has 1 million followers, so I say he has 1 million followers, so I say all that to say
he's like feeding off the shock factor of like being racist,
because we reward that behavior with attention, not necessarily saying that that's our goal, because a lot of people of course are like outraged, but even the outrage is attention.
That's why he keeps doing it, because
there's it's like how they say there's no such thing as bad publicity, basically.
But you also think too, I think even down to like reality shows, the messier the better. I feel like the more mess that is being portrayed, the more viewers the people are going to watch, or people are going to have common conversations about, or dinner table topics about. I'm also in fear of the longevity of people's character these days.
Right.
Like, is it just good for today? And then once you make it or you arrive, as my grandmother would say, does that go out of the window?
And good character is the quality, right, versus the quantity, right? Doesn't like you could have a bunch of followers for the shock factor or the shock value, but that's only going to take you so far. I know that we're in the age of gentle parenting, so I don't want to like trigger anybody with this story, but I always think to this story that Beyonce told about how when she was coming up in Destiny's Child and they were becoming very successful, she was, there was this moment where she was in the car with her parents and she was just really feeling herself, and she, her song was on the radio and her mom's trying to tell her to do something, and she's just, being a 19, 20-year-old who just got that song on the radio. And then she slapped her. Her mom slapped her. And the dad is like, Matthew's like, well, what are you doing? Her, she's the number one. She has the number one song on the radio. She's just she's just being a kid. She was just like, no, you will not disrespect. She basically humbled her in that moment. She was like, you are my child. You will not disrespect me. And when I ask you to do something, you do it.
She's also raised in the South.
When she told that story, I've never heard that story.
No, and that story stuck with me. It was a very early interview, but that just stuck with me. That, just that humility that is instilled in certain people when they have certain people around them, at a very early age, and it shows. I feel like Beyonce's career is obviously a testament to the currency of the character of the people around her.
Yeah, you could tell when somebody got some home training.
That's it.
Period.
That's
Point
it.
blank.
I also think too there are moments to where we make excuses for poor character.
Yes.
Where we
because of money
because
and
of the
status
money.
and influence.
And then when they grow up and become these
monsters
as adults, and we go, well, this person was like that when they were a kid.
Yep.
Where we could have rectified that situation and that behavior when they were early in their career. My only concern is people being in the spotlight and fame before they're even ready. I don't think anybody's ready to be famous, even the most famous person.
Yeah.
I just think
I don't think it's anything that you can prepare for. Really.
You can't.
Right.
But I think that's why it starts here. It starts here, and it starts here, and it depends on the people that you're connected to. Like I said, I think a lot of these people who have arrived and have made it, there's not much that you could really tell them. We've heard several artists and musicians and people like that who said, we've heard so many stories come out, and we go, well, what was their crew at?
Right.
Where was they people at? And then we get to the point where we go, when you become, I hate to call it like a yes man,
right?
You're just there really to appease this person to get paid, but that still is a reflection on your own character.
Right. And it's so sad. Often good character is not really rewarded, especially when the higher you climb, I guess. You often are standing right alone, like you're in doing the right thing. Oftentimes, so often you are standing alone in doing so, just because of the temptation of all of these other variables that play a factor that influence people's decisions.
I just feel like the more money you get, the less attached I feel like people are from like humanity or just like empathy or like any type of like
compassion.
Like the more money you get, the less and less. Yeah, that's what I feel.
I feel like the more money you start to obtain, the harder you have to work to keep that humility. Yeah. I feel like you genuinely have to like work towards it.
Like you have to be intentional about like keeping those type of people around you.
Yes. Like. I think I remember seeing this interview with that late night host, James Corden, the British one. He was saying something about actually having to go to therapy for that. Like when you start to like amass a certain amount of success and you just kind of get ahead of yourself. And if you don't just basically get your ego in check, like it just kind of runs rampant. Yeah. So yeah, he was talking about just literally having to go to therapy, like basically like ego checking therapy, basically. Which I feel like should be a thing for successful people, honestly, because I feel like that is a part of it. There's this detachment, to your point, Caleb. There's this detachment from humanity and, empathy and compassion.
What's that one drug? Not to like get into drugs, but ayahuasca. No. They're like,
I'm just not gonna sneak that in there.
I forgot who I heard say this, but like,
was that like Kendrick? He said, I suggest like ayahuasca to strip the ego or something like that in his diss track or something. Yeah.
Ayahuasca. Some of y'all need to take that.
They are so cool to me.
I don't know. Ayahuasca, they say you be throwing up and puking. I don't know.
Will Smith talked about taking it in his book. In his memoir he wrote, he said that was one of the things that he tried, and it was a lot of people speak to it being
for me.
It is very extreme, and I feel like it's for like extreme people. I look at someone like Will Smith as an extreme person, and I feel like everybody's journey is different, and some people just kind of seek that like that type of like intense revelation, I guess. Whereas other people just like to journal or go to therapy.
Yeah.
I'm also thinking too when I
music.
think character is currency, and y'all know I got to go super deep. The part that dawned on me is there's multiple forms of currency. We got the dollar, we got the peso,
Bitcoin.
We got Bitcoin, and I think it depends on what room. I think people have a certain characteristic. They have a certain trait, right? Depending on the room. I also think too that the scariest part is being able to stand in your own belief about your character, because that's not cool, right? It's not cool to do the integral,
do the right thing,
do the
and
right
have
thing.
But it's
integrity.
like once you
Right.
It's not
once you
sexy.
know who you
No,
are,
it doesn't sell.
once
No.
you know who you are, nobody can tell you.
Right.
But
try to tell
sometimes
you
people
different.
say that, okay, and then they bring in a check and they be like, well,
And I
Right.
think that's out of fear. I feel like that.
Yeah.
I feel like a lot of people, wish for that. I feel like a fame and fortune. That's a very common, wish or desire of people. And I feel like, the kind of like go along with the get along antics is more so just the fear of like losing that. But I talked to Caleb. I'm like, I'm not afraid of being broke. I done been broke.
Listen.
I didn't hit rock bottom and then came
Hello.
back again so
It's
many
just
times.
some
It's just
things
like
I'm not doing.
yes,
I'm not
yes.
doing.
It's just it's more so about your soul. Like what is
Right.
good for your soul? What decision making is good for your soul? And if that matters to you, more than the fame, the fortune, the money, the cars, the clothes, whatever, then you're good. You're Gucci. But some people don't know who they are without any of that. It's like their mask.
I think that's what's so scary is when you know morality, but you also, morality and money sometimes are a gift and a curse, and I think those of you guys who are getting ready to go viral, you've been rival. All it takes is one set of eyes to see you. And I would hate for people to see this podcast and be like, oh, they are so dope. And think now that we have, it's okay to critique some things, and make some shifts and make some changes. But if I have to go into and completely change who Nita is and what she stands for, I don't think there's enough currency in the world to make me sell my soul and who I am. And people say that, right? We have these
Until it's presented to
until
you.
it's
Right.
presented to you. But I think that's what camaraderie is all about. I think that's what having the
Yes.
right connections and the right community around you.
Having a
So that
village.
way, that accountability, because I can go in and be like, y'all, ABC Network called and they want to take on our show and buy our show.
Because these are the people that really want what's best for you and like really have your
Facts.
best like
Your best interest.
Mm-hmm.
So even if
So-
ABC calls, if they, on some
yeah.
on some demon time or, whatever you want to call it. It's like,
Y'all are so cool.
Yeah.
I do want to have our viewers, before you do your takeaway, is to look at it from a perspective of what does character cost? And what would it cost you to go viral? What would it cost you to be famous? What would it cost you if a
Child,
top
they doing any and everything on TikTok nowadays. I saw some questionable things on TikTok the other
I don't
night.
have TikTok. I want to tick my talk,
I
but
don't know.
I don't know
Girl,
how to
what?
TikTok.
You want to take your talk?
Yeah, I want to tick my talk on the TikTok.
Okay, takeaways.
Give me your character's currency takeaway.
My character is currency takeaway. Really, just like evaluate your circle. Yeah.
assess your circle.
Assess your circle.
We have
I feel
one like
we
that.
say
That
all
wasn't
the
that
time.
wasn't that another? I feel like that was an episode we did already.
I feel
That was a
like-
good one.
Yeah. Assess
Go back
your
to your
circle.
archives and watch that one, honey. That was good.
Assess your circle.
What's
Episode
yours?
reference. I would say focus when it comes to character building. When it comes to building good character, focus on the things that cannot be taken away from you. The materials, the money, that can all be gone. It's so finite. You can't take it with you when you die. That ultimately doesn't matter. What was that movie? Trading Places with Eddie Murphy. Them white men, they were rich as kings, and just like that, in a matter of minutes, broke. You know what I mean? So
Not
it's
only
just
is
like
she a wordsmith, she knows the movies, y'all.
so it's just like I say that to just like show how finite the materials that people will lose their souls over aren't worth it. So when it comes to good character building, just focus on the things that are in here that are soul bearing, that can't be taken away from you.
I like that. For mine, I would say count up the cost. Count up the cost. And what is it going to cost you to build this alliance? What is it going to cost you to build this partnership, to go into this job, to go into this business. Some of you guys are entrepreneurs, up and coming artists, or what y'all be calling them? Influencers. Count up the costs. And like I said before, let your faith, your grace, and your skill set take you where your integrity can keep you. And I know that it sounds like a dope bar, which it is, but make sure that you have the right people connected to you to hold you at that center point. So that way, if they make sure that you can check your friend, make sure that you're checkable before you go into certain rooms. But outside of that, don't be afraid to shine. Don't be afraid to shine. It's okay every now and then to let your hair down. I have. And then I put that sucker right back into a bun.
You gotta what?
Pop out
and show niggas. Like,
you know what? 2 snaps for the pop out. I'm your captain. I got Caleb and I got Nisha with me. And y'all, we out.
Bye.
Yeah.